Hey everyone, Anas Saleh here, and welcome back to Behind the Scenes, where I talk about the influences and inspirations behind each of the short stories in my first anthology, Tales from Mistland and Other Oddities, Volume 1. As always, you can find a link to the book and the promo art and my interview with Benjamin Morse in the description below. Also, for those of you who haven't watched any of the videos before, these videos are spoilerific. So if you haven't read the stories or you don't want to, or you want to go in cold, now would be a good time to stop the video. And with that said, let's get started. So today's episode 3, is about the Mahdi's final death. Is originally titled The Last Recollection of the Great Mahdi, but I didn't quite like the title, felt a little too long-winded, and didn't quite have enough of a dramatic heft, so I ended up changing it to what it is now. Uh, the Mahdi's final death did have a very specific impetus, in that I wrote it for an Islamic sci-fi contest during one of my spring semesters at UTD during my undergrad days. Uh, I my story didn't get selected, unfortunately, for to become part of what became Islamic Hits Volume 1. That said, it wasn't too bad. I mean, I did end up writing the story, which wouldn't have gotten written otherwise. But anyway, the one of the main inspirations for the story was, believe it or not, RoboCop. I kind of had this idea, like what would a Middle Eastern version of RoboCop look like? And so that was kind of like the tagline or the pitch, like the conceptual pitch of the story. And from there, it kind of developed. So one of the things, as I was kind of like thinking, how do I take this story and how how do I take the story and adapt it to this other setting? I will preface this by saying I haven't seen the original. I know, shame on me. But I know about it through pop culture osmosis, and I did see the remake in the 2010s, which was a serviceable movie, but obviously just couldn't match the heights of the original movie, from what I've been told. My friend co-author Brian did see it though, so maybe I'll badger him to showing it to me at some point. Anyway, uh, as I was trying to think like how can I expand and tweak this template to better suit the Middle Eastern setting, my mind went to the idea of the Mahdi. Because the Mahdi, like many prophesied religious figures throughout history, many men have stepped forward and claimed to be him, you know, with varying degrees of success, though obviously they've all been proven fake by the fact that, well, we're still here and the end times have not happened. But one of the, if not the last major, like fake Mahdi for lack of a better word, or false Mahdi, if I remember correctly, was the one who led the Sudanese revolt, leading to the Battle of Omdurman, where Churchill and Kitchener made their name, and of course the fall of Khartoum and the death of that some British guy named Gordon. I don't remember his full name, which got the British involved because the public were outraged, even though the Parliament were like, "Dude, you're giving us a headache. We don't want this headache. Stop being an idiot and get out of there." Anyway, so the idea kind of came to me to kind of mesh this, to kind of like mesh RoboCop with a story about a fake Mahdi, a fake savior, and then that kind of tied in with another idea I wanted to explore, which was, the whole cybernetics eat your soul trope. I know it's not exactly an entirely popular trope, especially among people with, say, prosthetics, and other, and people have had, surgeries and, things like heart implants and pacemakers. It kind of demeans and dehumanizes them. But what I wanted to explore with the trope in this story was more the psychological aspect of it rather than, say, the emotional or kind of I want to explore more like the psychological and spiritual kind of aspect. rather than say make a statement on one's humanity in that sense. So one of the things I want to explore was, when you look at some sci-fi stories like RoboCop or stories that, it's about kind of like about like reconnecting with your humanity or regaining it or rediscovering it, And so I wanted to kind of, like I've done like I did with, Star Wars End with the whole deal with the devil trope. I want to kind of flip that whole idea on its head, in the sense that what would cause a person to reject their humanity or to let the cybernetics eat their soul deliberately, Like what could make a person reach that state where they disassociate from their humanity? But of course, as the story shows, you can't disassociate from your humanity entirely, there's still a glimmer of the organic, a glimmer of the native soul underneath, so to speak. And so that was kind of like where those three things, cybernetics, the Mahdi, and RoboCop, kind of like what kind of gave the whole story its backbone. And from there, things kind of developed. It's one of the reasons, but that disassociation, is one of the reasons why, for example, in the story, the only character who's named is, well, the main character. Everyone else has a description or an alias, And similarly, anytime the main character's name is mentioned, it's italicized. That was all part of my attempt to really kind of drive home this disassociated, dispassionate perspective where the character's really, really kind of out of it intellectually, mentally, spiritually, emotionally. This character really, the trauma has really done a number on this character, so to speak, on the Mahdi. Uh, Another thing I really, with the story, I really tried to do was I wanted to try my hand kind of at a more of a stream of conscious style narrative. One thing I really wanted to do with Volume 1, with the stories that I personally wrote, was really to push myself as a writer. Try out different techniques, different tones, different points of view. So, there's first person and there's third person limited and there's even second person, which I'll get to in a later episode. I think maybe the one after this actually. And in this story I really try to write like a stream of conscience that's like flowing and rambling, like you really are in the thoughts of a person, as they're thinking them. You know, uh, it felt like it suited the story, and yeah, just I think the only type of narrative I haven't really kind of point of view I haven't really explored really would be third person omniscient. I'll admit I'm not the biggest fan of it in terms of just writing. I mean, obviously there are stories that are really good with it, but in terms of writing, it's not one I've really tried all that. I've really kind of explored in my writing before, maybe in the future. And of course, fourth person, which is super obscure for very good reason, you know. Uh, but yeah, so that was yeah, stream of conscious. Whether I succeeded or not, well, I leave that up to the readers. But that was what I was going for with the stylistic narration of the Mahdi's final death. I'll admit, when I shared the story with my friend Brian and with my first editor Graham Benes, it was their least favorite out of the stories I presented to them. But so I have gotten feedback from some readers, and some of them actually like it a lot. Like it's one of their favorites. So like your mileage may, I guess, as the saying goes, your mileage may vary. You know, so one person's favorite might be another person's least favorite, and vice versa. So I'll leave it up to you whether or not the story is a flaming dumpster fire or a stroke of genius. But yeah, so Islamic history, a classic piece of sci-fi cinema, and just some intellectual exploration, kind of, you know, within the context of an Islamic sci-fi competition, were what made this story come into existence. And with that, I conclude today's episode. Uh, the next episode, episode 4, I'm hoping to make kind of a two-parter in the sense that I'm going to be discussing my fourth story, Promontory, and my fifth short story, The Dragon Slayer, together, goes because they're kind of they're very short, and so I don't have as much to talk about with them. So it makes sense to do them together. And there's like and then the context in which they were written is also kind of similar. So that helps to kind of it makes even more sense to talk about them in the same video. With that said, as always, you'll find a link to the book in the description below. And again, if you want to see the promo art or watch my interview with Benjamin Morse, it's also in the description below. And with that said, thank you so much for watching. If y'all have any questions, you can reach out to me via email. I'll try to answer as soon as I can. And have a wonderful day. Thank you all so much for your time.